All advice given is for general information purposes. All legal cases are different, and you should seek the advice of your own attorney before acting or making decisions. No attorney-client privilege applies to communications on this show, and no attorney-client relationship is created by calling or writing in. Attorney Rominger practices only in Pennsylvania and maintains his primary office in Carlisle, Pennsylvania.
Hey, Carl Rominger here. Show's weekend appointment show where I answer your legal questions. Lauren, you're on with Carl Rominger. What's going on? Can you hear me, Lauren? I don't know, Lauren. Can we hear you?
Hello?
Yeah.
Oh, it's Ron.
Ron.
Yes, I'm sorry. That was when you said Lauren. Anyway, we have a question to ask you.
Yeah.
Our daughter's looking to get a divorce. They're talking about waiting until the end of the year till he finds out whether he gets disability retirement from his employer. Our question is there anything she can do to help protect herself? I'm afraid, for example, he wants to go financially. He wants to go, for example, fly down to Florida and take the kids. He also wanted to take his brother, his niece, and nephew and pay for all them. He's also talking about joining a retirement or a country club.
Uh-huh.
And I'm just afraid he's going to, knowing that, quote, they're married, that he knows she has to pay everything, half and half. Is there anything, now she doesn't think that he's going to do all this, but...
Well, the short answer is, yeah, any debt incurred during the marriage is presumably a marital debt.
That's what our daughter says, yes.
And so if my advice would be, go ahead and if you're really serious about getting divorced, go ahead and file the paperwork. That way, that creates a bright line where any expenditure beyond is not going to be marital. On the other hand, I guess you could make an argument later that they should get more of that debt because it was self-serving and wasted. But yeah, I mean, I see a real problem there.
We do too, and I know what she's saying. She wants to trust him, but I'm just afraid he's going to take advantage of the situation.
The other option is to approach him and say, "Listen, we've got our problems. I've thought about divorce, but I don't want to go that route. But I would like to sign an agreement that just says that." To the extent that this is when we would draw a line in the sand on any debt incurred, unless otherwise agreed. You can do that kind of like a reconciliation / not a postnuptial, but like an antenuptial agreement. Kind of, it's almost like a I'm thinking about getting divorced, but instead I'll stay together and we'll try to make it work. But now I want the prenup in place.
Yeah, and that's okay. Because they kind of go back and forth. They've been talking about this
Yeah.
And he lately has been really pushing it, and I know she doesn't want to. She wants to work it out, but it just doesn't look like it's going to happen, I'm afraid.
Right.
But I'm afraid he's just going to financially take advantage of it, and then she'll be responsible for it.
Right. Yeah. So that's the long answer to a short question, but she's at risk.
Yes, I agree, 100%.
All right. Was that helpful?
Is this done at a lawyer's office?
Yeah, this kind of agreement, particularly where it's a we're going to stay married type agreement, really needs to be very carefully crafted and done. Otherwise, it could be found to be unenforceable at some point.
Well, that was my next question, because sometimes you hear, even though people have prenups, sometimes you hear they always get...
They get set aside, yeah. That's why you need to do it. And so, the joke is you got to do it. Everybody's got to have their own lawyer. So usually the best would be to have two lawyers involved, one for each party.
Right.
One side drafts it, the other one takes it to their lawyer and has it looked over. But generally in Pennsylvania, they're going to be pretty airtight as long as it's done with the appropriate language, the appropriate disclosure, and knowingly, intelligently, and voluntarily with the assistance of counsel.
Okay. Great.
All right.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you.
Bye now.
Bye. Okay, who's next here? Linda, you're on weekend appointment with attorney Carl Rominger. How are you today?
Fine, thank you.
What's going on?
I received a citation. I have a question about it. It was in Harrisburg.
Yeah.
It was in July on the 24th, a Saturday morning at 7:38, their paper says, for allegedly going 40 miles an hour in the 25-mile speed limit.
Mm-hmm.
They say it was at 2800 2nd Street.
Okay.
But they stopped me at the end of the 2700 block. And I had been driving up 2nd Street at that area. I was in a group of cars.
Mm-hmm.
The light at the beginning of the 2700 block, which is Radnor Street, turned yellow, and the cars around me went through it, and I stopped. And at the end of that block, after the light turned green and I started up again, I doubt I got to 40 miles an hour. I drive a Corolla, and I wasn't speeding.
Right.
And the officers, I had seen them in a car go past, and I didn't see them any further, while I was driving in before the red light, before the 2700 block at Radnor.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy, kind of at the end of the 2700 block, I was about 3 cars down from the end of the 2700 block, and he's hesitating as to whether he's going to walk across the street or not. An officer on the right side, he comes out with his arm finally pointing that I'm slowing down because I don't know what this guy's doing. And I pulled over, he's pointing to the corner, so I pulled into the corner and came to a stop there. I called my lawyer, and he said, well, Linda, if I go to court with you, it'll cost you more. Just pay the fine.
Right. What did they charge you with? With speeding?
39, yeah.
Yeah, and, the answer on that is, but then it goes on points on your record.
That's right. And how soon do they come off?
The points take about a year to come off on one speeding ticket. More importantly, it's going to sit in your driver's record every time you go to apply for insurance. And I can tell you, I just was looking at a commercial insurance policy the other day, and the guy had a speeding ticket, 3 years ago. And it's right there on his binder sheet. I mean, they pull that stuff exactly. I
think my company said they don't do that, but I'll check again.
Yeah, and yours may not. And my point is, now here's the next question. So so you get one ticket. Now what happens the next time they write you up?
I'm scared to death. I mean, I will not. If.
But you weren't doing anything wrong. What are you going to do? Stop driving?
I know, that's the question.
And that's why
I can't. I'm not in a position to do that.
Your lawyer's advice was bad, and I'm not going to give your lawyer a hard time, except to say what he should have done was say, why don't you go to the hearing on your own? Don't take me, and ask for a 3111. And see if he'll plead it down to a 3111. If he won't do that, ask him to do 5 miles over, because either one of those will be non-point offenses. And then if that doesn't work, then let me know. And if you're convicted, we'll talk about whether you really want to fight it or not, and then we can do it at the county courthouse, and I can get it fixed for you, and then we'll decide if it's worth spending the money at that point or not.
I see.
But your lawyer really should have counseled you to be a little more
over to the justice of the peace.
Exactly.
Or the district magistrate.
For the day, set up a hearing, plead not guilty, and I'm not saying it's going to happen every time, but many times if the officers approach and you say, "Listen, I really didn't think I was speeding, but if you think I was, that's okay. I'll plead guilty. I just don't want any points." And the officer will say, "Oh, okay. Let's work it out then." I
see. The equipment they said they use CFR under the ANRODD.
ARN.
NROD.
Oh, yeah.
What is it? Does it actually make a picture of the car that they're looking at?
They're using the NRAD system.
Yeah, it was Harrisburg.
Yeah, and I have to take a look.
And it was before Susquehanna Township, and it was Harrisburg Police.
Okay.
Who I think are corrupt anyway.
Harrisburg or Susquehanna Township?
No, Harrisburg.
Yeah. And so...
Does that make a picture of the car?
I don't think it does.
Because I was in a group of cars, I think that... And the cars were going faster than I was.
Right.
I think they had somebody else, and they didn't pursue them. That was easy to pursue me because I was left at the red light, and I came up the street by myself.
Right.
Without other cars around me.
Now, the answer is it's going to be subject to his testimony and whether the judge believes him or not.
Yeah. I called the magistrate's office, and the secretary said, I wasn't in the 2800 block. Mm-hmm. Was that an important point?
Oh, yeah, that absolutely. They have to prove you beyond a reasonable doubt.
That would have done it. Yeah. Yeah, okay. And while they were writing the ticket, I heard them yelling over in the cop's car.
Yeah.
Police car. Somebody's yelling, 45, 45. So I figured they were just trying to get money.
And, well, there's a theory.
Trying to push it up.
There's a theory afoot that the city of Harrisburg's going bankrupt. I don't know if you read that anywhere or not.
Yeah. It occurred to me, too, that was the story.
The short answer on speeding tickets, they get very little money. Most of it goes to the state.
Therefore, they need to do more.
So they would have been better off charging with a local parking ticket. But nonetheless, I guess what I would tell you is you should have fought it.
Yeah.
You should have fought it.
Okay, fought it first on my own, if this should ever happen again. First on my own, and second through your office.
Exactly. And the other thing is, I mean, sometimes, depending on what townships pulled you over, what magistrate you're going in front of, I might even tell you to hire us on the front end, only because I already know that these guys always work it out kind of deal.
I see. Yeah, okay. Well, I had a feeling that there was something crooked going on when I heard them yelling 45. And I thought, oh, Lord, well, wait.
Yeah, and the other thing is, if there's multiple officers involved, one timed you and one pulled you over, in order to successfully convict you, they got to bring both of them to the hearing.
Oh, I see. In this case, I don't think so. It says the same one. But he wasn't alone in that car.
Gotcha. All right. Thanks for your story. I really appreciate it.
I heard your station today. I was listening, and then I heard the man say he had that same sort of ticket.
Yeah, and his was exactly the same speed, which I really thought was interesting. Same scenario.
Yes, exactly. That's why I called. And I also wanted to know whether there was something I could. There's nothing I can do now, right?
What day did you plead guilty?
7/24. The exact date. This happened on the 7/24. I sent the check in on, just a second, I have it recorded here, the 30th of July.
Yeah, your 30-day appeal period has probably run by now.
I see. So within that appeal period, even if you have...
Even if you pled guilty, within 30 days of pleading guilty, I could open it back up.
I see. Okay.
All right, Linda.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
You're listening to Carl Rominger. This is Weekend Appointment. I'll see you after the break. Hey, welcome back. Carl Rominger here. Weekend Appointment, the show where I answer your legal questions. And if we don't get to you today, or you just don't have time to call, go to weekendappointment.com. That's a place where you can check us out on the web, learn a little bit more about me and my practice, and we'll go from there. But go to weekendappointment.com. You can also get a free will if you get a chance. Who's next? Dale. You're on with Carl Rominger. How are you today?
All right. How are you doing, Carl?
What's going on?
Hey, got a question about divorce. I'm a little paranoid right now.
Okay.
Someone informed me, a friend of mine, now granted this is not an attorney, but I'm thinking about filing for divorce.
Right.
I also want custody of my kids. Now, someone made the comment that Pennsylvania is a woman's state, and I would be fighting tooth and nail to have custody.
Okay. And you want to know if I feel that's true or not?
Yeah.
Well, a long time ago, I think every state was a woman's state. In fact, there was a theory, that women were better caregivers than men, etc. The modern trend that the psychologists, psychiatrists, social workers, and folks have developed over the years and kind of pointed out to the courts is a man or a woman is not inherently better with children. Now, there's a theory, say a breastfed 2-month-old infant, probably going to stay with mom, right?
Yeah. Well, my youngest is 3.
Right. So let's talk about it. So now that you're out of that very tender age, there's nothing you can't do that mom can do better, okay? And in any given couple. Now, that in mind, the modern trend has been to go to a 50-50 situation. And go with 50-50, meaning for mother or father. So I think your friend is right that, there's certainly a bias out there, but it's so greatly diminished. I would never make that my basis not to fight. And in fact, in most courtrooms, you're now going to find that as long as you live reasonably close to the other side, there's going to be a high probability of a very close to even shared custody situation.
Well, that's the other issue that we're going to have if we go through with the divorce. She has no family here. All her family's in another state.
Mm-hmm. And so you assume she's going to move away.
Yeah.
And if either side wants to move away, the courts have something called a relocation hearing available. So you could actually have the court decide what's better for the children.
Okay. That gives me a little bit more to work with. I do have an appointment at your office Friday.
Good. And here's the other thing you should just put in the back of your head, just so you know this as well. I mean, the kids know when the marriage is bad, all right?
Yeah.
They suffer. And so if splitting up, if not splitting up is the fear that the children are going to be divvied up a certain way by the courts, it doesn't matter. In the long run, they're going to be happier any which way than they're going to be living in a household where nobody gets along.
I mean, it's going to be, no matter what we do, it's going to be hard on the kids. The kids love, no matter how much Mom and I fight, the kids love both of us.
Exactly.
Okay? And it's, no matter what, my point is, which is better for the kids? To be in that dysfunctional family so they have both parents, or to split? So
I think it's better to be split up and see a little less of one parent than the other, than be constantly seeing that. Because what happens is these kids come up and they get raised and they learn that this dysfunctional way is the way things are supposed to be, and they feel that that's normal, and then they're going to be at a high risk of getting into dysfunctional relationships themselves down the road. Whereas if Mom moves on and you move on and at least one of you has a happy, healthy, normal relationship, they're going to see what that looks like, and that's going to be something that is going to be much more likely to be instilled in them.
Yeah. Well, one of the biggest issues here, believe it or not, is this is her second marriage, my first, and she has two kids from her first marriage living with us.
Right.
That's throwing a monkey wrench into everything, too.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
But like I said, I just wanted to call because there's a lot of things that people are saying to me right now that are paranoying me.
Yeah, and my answer on that is it's sort of like my grandmother used to say, never tell anybody you're going to the hospital for surgery, because all they'll do is tell you stories about somebody who died at the hospital. I mean, nobody likes to tell the stories, the good stuff. Remember that. So what I want you to do is just relax, come see me. We'll handle this. All right?
Thank you.
All right, Dale.
Bye.
Carl Rominger here, weekend appointment answering your legal questions. Leslie, you're up. What's going on? Hey, Leslie.
Oh, hi.
How are you?
Sorry.
That's okay.
I didn't hear you say Leslie. I would like to, if I may, I'm not sure, make a comment
Yes.
on that last caller.
You may.
Man, I say to anybody, I don't care what, stay together for the kids' sake, because you don't know what you're stepping into the next time, and now you might have someone that doesn't like your kids yet too.
Oh yeah, that's always a danger.
I mean, oh man, anyhow, I don't know if there is a law about this. This is my question.
Okay.
When you are in the hospital and you have a child that's out of pediatric unit, is now in the adult unit.
Yeah.
Like when they are in ICU or intermediate care, just the adult section period, you are told that you may not stay with your child.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is, I know, that's what I'm wondering. Is there any law that says you can?
Not that I'm aware of now.
Huh? The only one thing that happened at one time was there was an automobile accident, and the mother was not hurt at all, but her daughter was hurt very seriously. They came into through the ER, and she needed surgery right away. So anyhow, when she came back up to the ICU unit,
Mm-hmm.
the nurses, of course, told her that she would have to leave. And she said, she looked at them and she said, I'm not leaving my daughter. And they said, well, you have to. And she said, I am not leaving my daughter. I mean, and she said, well, if you don't leave, we'll call security. And she said, well, you go ahead and call security. I will call the state police.
And what happened?
And they ended up calling an administrator, a hospital administrator.
Right, and then what did they do? Did they let her stay or no?
He came in and he said, hey, he said, we can't, let her in there. The only way you can make her leave is if she's being disruptive. Or,
So they let her stay?
Oh, yeah, the administrator said you're going to have to let her stay. And this is a real tough problem when, at a time like that, sometimes that's when they need you the most.
Right.
I always say someone you love, that adds the love, and they feel more like, well, this person is going to be by my side, and it just gives them a lot of comfort.
Right.
Now, someone they love will be there.
I don't know if there's a law that speaks to that or not directly. I know patients have rights, so I guess we'd want to check the Patient Bill of Rights, which is, I think there's a Patient Rights Act out there somewhere. So that's something. But the long and short of it is, I can imagine on a case by case basis, depending on the person's medical status. Obviously, if they're susceptible to infection or something, there may be reasons to limit their visitation and the access of third parties.
I'm not for liberal visitations. I mean, I when I see somebody bringing a small baby in a hospital, I think, oh my gosh, what are you doing here with that little baby? And even anywhere, I do not believe in liberal visitation rights. I think it is disruptive, and where you can go, I've seen an awful lot of that, so I'm not for that. But I am for one responsible person being able to stay with that person, that's sick. If like when you go in to be evaluated for your surgery, you about a week before, and they do blood work.
Well, Leslie, I think you've got a great position there. I got to let you go because I got to go to break here.
I understand.
But I really appreciate it.
I thank you very kindly.
Thank you.
Bye.
Carl Rominger here, Weekend Appointment. I'll see you after the break. Hey, welcome back. Carl Rominger here, answering your legal questions, Weekend Appointment. And if, you want to throw a question up to me on the website, you go to weekendappointment.com. If you need to get to see me in my office or talk to me in my office, you call the phone number, 717-241-6070. That's 717-241-6070. Or you can get it off weekendappointment.com. You can also email me there. If you send an email and you don't get a response immediately, figure maybe it went to the spam box. And so if it's an urgent matter, phone is probably the best way to make sure somebody knows that you're desperately trying to get hold of me. And, of course, I noticed that only people desperately trying to get hold of me are in crisis. Nobody's ever desperately trying to get hold of me for fun or just to hang out. Linda, you're on Weekend Appointment with attorney Carl Rominger. How are you?
Thank you. I'm fine, and my hat is off to all you hosts who have to handle all our different questions. And, know what you say is being recorded.
Well, yeah, in the back of your head, you're always like, what did I say? Did I say? I hope I didn't say that.
Right. But we love listening to your show. In reference to your comment about wishing we would get bin Laden, I'm afraid the reason we haven't gotten bin Laden is because we didn't want to get bin Laden. That if you or I were to cause a cataclysmic thing like he did, they would not round up all your cousins and give them a free flight back to their homeland, which is what my understanding they did for all the other bin Ladens.
Right.
And it's not against Republicans or Democrats alone. I think they all knew it was happening. I think it's good for our economy to have a war. We have munitions to use up, and who cares if we drop them on Afghanistan or Iraq? And if we got them, it would be less of a reason to be doing it. Sandy Berger, my understanding, was a Democrat who went in, took out secret documents, destroyed them. When Bush was president, and his punishment was what? He lost his security clearance for a year.
Right.
It was like, could you get that memo? I think that was in October.
Right.
And we, unfortunately, we are gullible. We want to believe that our leaders, even though we think they're ripping us off in every other way and doing self-serving things, miraculously, when it comes to wars, they know what's right.
Right. It's all about right and wrong.
Just incredible. And like the people that are still harping about the hippies in the 60s, if you had a college deferment, you didn't get drafted.
Right.
You couldn't vote, but they could tell you have to go. Well, who cares about Vietnam? Nobody knows where it is. We'll send you there, and we'll use up all our weapons, so we'll order more.
Well, and let me tell you, there's always great economic interest in having war.
Oh.
There's no doubt about that. And in fact, a lot of people credit World War II with pulling our economy out of the dumps.
And I wonder if FDR knew the Japanese were on their way. And it's like, this just might work.
Well, and I would always like to hope that nobody does those sorts of things. But of course, it goes all the way back to the sinking of the Maine, where there was a theory that the Maine wasn't actually blown up by anybody associated with the other side. And that, in fact, or that they knew it was going to be attacked and allowed that to happen because that's what got the U.S. involved in the Spanish-American War.
Yeah.
But it always, and of course, there was also that ship that got sank in World War I, wasn't it? That got us involved in the war over there.
Yeah.
So there's either got to always be a triggering event, or arguably there's always allowed to be a triggering event, or we conspire to create the triggering event. I don't subscribe one iota to the theory that we knew anybody was going to bomb the Twin Towers. I think what we did know is that there were terrorists out there who were active, and we knew that they were going to do something eventually. And there may have been no political will. I mean, the funny thing with Americans, and history seems to repeat itself again and again, is when we're provoked, we're a very dangerous nation. But we can slump into 20 to 40 years of we don't care what's going on in the rest of the world, and we don't really perceive a security threat because we're fat and happy here at home.
Right.
So I think that explains part of that cycle. But I really do get upset that we haven't nailed Osama bin Laden. I understand what you're saying. In fact, Howard Stern, a radio disc jockey far more famous than me, often would opine that he's living in a mansion somewhere in Saudi Arabia or Pakistan.
Yeah.
And not hiding out and freezing in a cave, as we'd be led to believe. And I am one to not trust the information that government presents us with, because I've seen it done again and again. I can give you an example. I saw where the Court of Common Pleas in a county participated in a sham where they made it look like a guy who had murdered somebody pled to involuntary manslaughter for time served, and made it very public and did it in a way so that the guy could get out of jail. In the meantime, what he'd actually been doing was informing against a drug gang.
Yeah.
And the feds then put him in witness protection. And I saw the actual documents because I happened to consult somebody who was involved in the case who he had given information against. And to the government's credit, they turned over the stuff, although, belated, the typical government fashion, belatedly, but nonetheless they had. And my point is, if they're willing to lie to the public in official court and co-opt a judge and everybody in an official court proceeding over some drugs and guns in a local county court, you're going to tell me that they won't lie to us at a global scale about something that they think is material? Like, look at the Koran burning, okay?
Yeah.
They're telling us we can't do this because it's going to provoke people. Okay, I understand. Okay, so we're going to say that, we're going to do it, we're not going to do it, whatever. But my point is, if they'll go to all those lengths just to stop some preacher from burning Korans and put the pressure on him, behind the scenes, Lord knows what's really going on and what visitors this guy. I'm sure this poor guy's been visited by the IRS and the state revenue department and some inspector for the building of the church, and everybody's going
septic zoning.
Right. And they're all looking at him going, everything seems fine, but I'll have to finalize my report on Sunday. So, just could I stop by on Saturday, or is there anything going on here? Are you busy?
Oh, it's such a puzzle.
So I don't know, but I do definitely kind of subscribe to the theory that we don't know what's going on out there. And so, like, my point on that little case is, if they're willing to bend the rules on a little thing like that,
absolutely, and they're so good at it.
Will they bend the rules on something big involving national security? There's no doubt in my mind they would.
Yeah. Oh, well, thank you for your show again.
No, thank you for your call. I enjoy it, and thanks for listening. And, of course, if you ever need me, go to weekendappointment.com, and you can find me.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Carl Rominger here, the show's Weekend Appointment, where I answer your legal questions. We're in our third segment right now. We'll have one more segment coming up. Am I in my third segment? Yeah, I got 3 minutes left in this segment. 2 minutes left in this segment. How many fingers are you holding up there? One finger and a thumb. Okay, I see. I didn't fall for that. Not that finger. Oh, my gosh. This guy gets so angry. He's a very angry young man. Anyhow, Weekend Appointment's a show where I answer your legal questions. I come on the air. You can listen to me various times. Every Saturday at 2 p.m. on WHP 580, 1460 The Ticket. At 7 a.m. on Sundays. You can get it on Facebook. So if you're not a Facebook friend of mine yet, go to facebook.com, look up Carl with a K Rominger, and friend me. Go to weekendappointment.com, whatever you want to do. Tom, you're on with attorney Carl Rominger. How are you?
Hi, Carl. Good afternoon. Say, I want to tell you first that we did business with your firm, a relative of mine, recently, and we were extremely pleased with the service that we got. It came out much better than we expected. Good.
And I was did I do the work, or did one of my other attorneys help out?
No, Manfredo did the work.
Okay, well, he's a good guy, and I'm glad to hear that he did a good job. Tom, what I'm going to do, though, is I'm going to have you hold for a minute, because Shane's got to put in the last break here, and then I'll let you ask your question or tell me. But thanks for the compliment. I really appreciate that.
Okay, Carl.
All right, hold on for a second. You listen to Weekend Appointment with attorney Carl Rominger. When we come back from the break, we'll talk with Tom. Welcome back to Weekend Appointment with attorney Carl Rominger, the show where I answer your legal questions. Don't forget to go to weekendappointment.com if you get a chance. There you can sign up for the free will. That's right, a free will. Good music, Shane. Good choice. Good choice. All right, folks. Don't forget, weekendappointment.com to get that free will. Tom, you're on with Carl Rominger. You were on in the last segment, and I appreciate the fine words you said, but did you have a question you wanted to shoot out there?
Oh, yes, I did. I want to also tell you before I get going here that I think you're providing a great service here. I listen to you, and boy, I've learned a lot just listening to you, and thank you so much for your service there.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you again.
Okay, now to my question. Here's the situation. A friend of mine he was working. He took out a policy for long-term disability. He eventually was disabled and went on long-term disability. He was in a child dispute with his ex-girlfriend. She had a little girl, beautiful little girl. But in any event, he paid child support for this little girl for the longest time, and as a matter of fact, for about 2.5 years.
Mm-hmm.
And then he eventually filed for a Social Security disability, and they gave him Social Security disability. but apparently there was a provision in the law that anything that was paid to out of Social Security disability to the dependents would also be deductible from his policy proceeds. So as a consequence, the insurance company sent him a bill for something like, I think it was about $5,000, something back 2 years for their payments. And of course now they're coming after him for the money. He has been supporting the child as provided for the court. You know, the court said you'll pay X number out of your policy proceeds, and he was paying that right along. And these two are not in the best of, they're not the best of friends, so she didn't tell him a darn thing about this. Anyway, she obviously got a windfall of about $5,000, and now he wants to go back and try to recover this. Have you got any suggestions there?
Okay, so I'm just trying to follow the factual setup. So she got the money, the windfall money.
Yeah. See, Social Security pays directly to the child.
Right.
Well, not to the child, but to the custodial parent of the child.
Right. And so that's where the windfall came in because of the was it like a back pay?
Yeah, it was a back pay.
Yeah.
Social Security is a monster.
Yeah, it takes them forever to do everything.
I'm sure you're aware of that.
It takes them a while to do things.
It does. It takes him forever. And when he did get his approval, and of course the insurance company, was pushing him all the while, but they didn't tell him, well, when you get Social Security, you're going to have to pay back all the money that we pay out, not only to you, which he already paid back, but to any dependent that gets Social Security. Yeah,
I think he could go for a contribution to the child or mother for that money.
To domestic
yeah,
relations?
Probably go back to domestic relations on it, ask for an adjustment. But boy, yeah, and I don't know how they're going to deal with that. But if he's on the hook for $5,000, then that they should probably just refund all the child support and consider that an advance on his child support obligation.
Yeah. Okay.
Does that make sense? I think that would be the best way to deal with it. Say, let's just treat it. We're not going to suck it. We know we can't literally suck it back out of him with a vacuum cleaner. But Judge, what I want to do then is just to be fair, say, all right, let's knock down the child support amount by X dollars a month till we recoup that $5,000.
Yeah. Well, his Social Security income right now, Carl, after he gets deductions for Medicare and all, is $900. So, how the hell are they going to get any out of him?
Right. Understand. So realistically, it's going to be very difficult.
Yes. Okay, Carl, thank you so much for your time. And again, I say, hey, you're doing a great job, and I had a great experience. We had a great experience with your firm.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Okay,
thank you again. Okay, take care, Tom. Well, I guess somebody likes us once in a while. Yeah, and I think he was saying Vinny Manfredo in my office worked with him. Vinny's a great guy, does a really good job. That's why we keep him around. We've got a few good lawyers in there. I enjoy working with all of them, obviously. I'm sure they hate me since I'm the boss and taskmaster and, all those good things. But we do take our job fairly seriously. So if you need a lawyer, go to weekendappointment.com. You can find me. You can find my firm. And listen, folks, if you really wanted to hire me, but for some reason I'm not immediately available, there's nobody in my office that I let practice law underneath me that I wouldn't let represent me. Okay? So if it's one of the other guys in there that needs to talk to you, or my paralegal's the only one available at the exact moment, the paralegal can't give you legal advice, but they can at least maybe give you a little direction, and more importantly, maybe just get your story encapsulated and get in front of an attorney real quick, even if they need to interrupt them in what they're doing. We can get you some kind of answer. More importantly, whichever one of us works on your case, I think you're going to have a good result. And, of course, if there was a problem, I'd want to know. And then, so you know how to get a hold of me. You can just shoot me an email from weekendappointment.com. That's the best way to get me. So I strongly recommend you go to weekendappointment.com, look us up, collect that free will. It's a literal free will written by a real live attorney, me, and you're going to enjoy that because you're going to get to sit down with me. I'm going to bore you with a little bit of history of the law and wills and how it all works. I'm going to also explain to you a living will, a power of attorney, and all those good things. And for the simple will, there's absolutely no charge. And so if that's all you want, you'll walk out of there for free. If you want a power of attorney or a living will, well, there's a minor charge for that, and you're still going to walk out of there without your pocketbook all lightened up like you would some other places. More importantly, unlike those office stores, those downloads online, it's going to be done right, and it's going to be done in consultation with a real live attorney. So you can't beat it. Go to weekendappointment.com and claim your free will. And again, I'm writing those for people all the time. So if you're wondering what other people are doing, they're doing them. They're getting up. They're stepping up and coming in and seeing me and getting it done. And I want you to do the same thing. So make sure you go to weekendappointment.com. In the meantime, if you need me, you can also get my phone number there, my email, and you can get a hold of me. I guess the thought I want to leave you on, I'm going to wrap up the show here. We had a guy call earlier to talk about being pulled over because he had an air freshener in his car, and I told him there's a case out there. I looked it up during one of the breaks. It's called Commonwealth versus Anthony. It was decided on July 19th, 2010, reaffirming case law from 1995. That would be 15 years ago, saying that the pine tree air freshener is not a reasonable suspicion to believe that somebody's view is obstructed. So if you're pulled over by a police officer who says that a feather, a pine tree, a little air freshener, your tassel from your graduation was probable cause and it leads to an arrest or other problems, don't take it sitting down. Come see me. I can help. Go see another criminal defense lawyer. Go see a lawyer. I don't care what you do, but don't take it sitting down because I can't pull you over for that little pine tree. All right, folks? You've been listening to Weekend Appointment. I'm attorney Carl Rominger. I will see you next week.